Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It is Friday, March 20th, 11:30 a.m. And we are going to discuss the decline, rise, fall, whatever you want to say. I would say political image assassination of one Cesar Chavez, infinitely more famous Mexican American labor leader and the wrong kind of socialist for the times. So you say to yourself, what happens when a historical icon suddenly becomes inconvenient? Not irrelevant, but inconvenient, because right now the legacy of Cesar Chavez is being dragged back into the spotlight. Not for his labor victories, not for organizing farm workers, not for La Raza, but over resurfacing allegations that, conveniently or not, arrive at a moment of intense political conflict over immigration. And that timing is what we're talking about here. So let's be clear from the start. I am not one, nobody working here is one to defend Cesar Chavez as a person, as part of a movement, or anything else. He is not my hero. If there are credible allegations, they should be examined seriously, full stop. Okay? No cap. But what is worth examining is the broader environment in which the story is gaining traction. Because Chavez wasn't just a civil rights figure, he was a much more complicated figure than that, and especially in the West Coast politics. As the co founder of the United Farm Workers, he built a movement around wages, working conditions, and labor power. And here's the part that does not fit neatly into today's narratives. Chavez openly worried about illegal immigration and how it would undercut the very workers he was trying to protect. He was very stiff as far as his treatment of illegal migrant workers. Now, that's not a talking point you hear about much anymore. So let's fast forward to today when the dominant strain of immigration advocacy has shifted because socialism has changed its form again and is now the version that you and I are confronted with daily. And it is less about labor markets, it's more about rights, access, and systemic inequalities. And of course, the fact that they need them to vote. Now, whether you agree with that shift or not, it creates a problem because Chavez represents a version of the issue that forces a trade off. He raised uncomfortable questions, which is like, what happens to wages when labor supply increases rapidly? Can worker protections coexist with completely open labor flows? And who benefits when those questions are ignored? That kind of complexity doesn't lend itself to clean messaging. And movements, especially political ones, as you see today, prefer a clear, simple message. And when I say clear, it doesn't mean it's true. It's three words, free Palestine, stuff like that. Very simple to understand. So now you have to ask yourself, why would you revisit Chavez this way right now? Historical figures don't get re-examined in a vacuum. They get re-examined when their ideas stop aligning with the present. And when that happens, there are usually two options. You reinterpret them or you move past them. Sometimes that process looks like criticism, sometimes it looks like exposure, and sometimes it looks like a complete reframing of who that person was. The question isn't whether Chavez was flawed. Every historical person has their problems. Look at Andrew Jackson, right? The question is whether his ideas are now inconvenient to the current direction of the movement, and the modern movement tears down and destroys those that stand in its way. Even a person like Chavez, who is minimally giving you an off ramp from this totalitarian system that they want. So this is not unique to Chavez, though. We've seen this before, as we said. Historical memory is constantly being edited. I would tell you, if you have children, try to buy history books that were written around World War II, as far as early history. Get something that was written up until maybe 1958. It's all going to change after that. Okay. So historical memory is being reshaped, recontextualized. Figures who once unified movements can become liabilities if they complicate the message. And Chavez complicates the message because he doesn't fit cleanly into a purely humanitarian narrative or a purely economic one. He sits at that intersection, and that intersection is exactly where the hardest policy questions live. So, where does that leave us? It leaves you with a choice. You can reduce historical figures to symbols that fit your current beliefs, or we can engage with them as they actually were when they were complex, they were contradictory, they're sometimes uncomfortable. Because the real risk here isn't that Chavez's reputation changes. The real risk is that we lose the nuance he represented. And if that happens, we're not just rewriting the history, we are simply making a situation where we simplify a problem that has never been simple to begin with. Pretty much that. So if you want other uh, articles like this, like, subscribe. We are on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, Substack, and www.southfloridaconservative.com, and we will put them out there. For those of you who are Chavistas, no, I can't say Chavistas because Chavistas are the guys in Venezuela, but those of you who were followers of his philosophy, do not let this type of thing ruin your view of that philosophy when it comes to how labor in the United States should be handled. What they try to get this sex thing out there because they feel that that ruins everything. Although they are involved in it themselves, they will do this type of thing because they feel that is as low as you can go. And it's just typical of socialism to do this because he's considered, a hero in certain circumstances. But to the people that are running the show today, he is a failure because he did not succeed. They are in a zero sum game here. These socialists and Democrats. You can see that with not wanting to pay the DHS. You can see it with a lot of other things. But they are going to tear down everybody they can. Now, I'm not saying the guy didn't do it. He could very well have done it. It's amazing the FBI didn't see it back when he was somebody to kneecap because the FBI was all about stuff like that. Anyway, there's a lot of I give you a lot of gray area on the story in general, but this is probably the reason it's being done. I will say that to you. There's more than 70% chance they are blowing him out of the water because of the stance of the Democrats and socialists that illegals get to do anything they want here, and there should be no moderation. And that's about all I got for you on that. Hope everything goes well for you today, and we'll see what goes on the weekend. Goodbye.